Всем привет! In this video, we're gonna learn how to read Russian in a very step-by-step and conscious manner. And here's what I mean. I'm gonna use these kind of like puzzles as prompts. And as you can see, they're easily detachable into syllables. So first we're gonna read the syllables separately, thinking about what sounds these letters make. And then we're gonna read it as part of a word where some of the sounds will change how they sound depending on where they are in the sentence, what follows, what precedes, and where the stress falls. So I think this video is going to be good for complete beginners of Russian, but also for anyone who is still struggling when they're reading Russian. Okay, let's start. Okay, here is our first word, and it has 3 syllables. So first syllable has sounds s and a. Together we read it as sa, sa. Second syllable has sounds m and o. Together we read them as mo, mo. The last syllable has sounds l, yo, t. Together we read this as лёд, лёд. So what happens here is that we have the vowel yo, which is basically pronounced as I-O, yo, yo. And that vowel makes the preceding consonant soft. So instead of using this default sound l, 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 we have to switch it to the soft l, l, l. Now, when yo follows the consonants, it doesn't only make it soft, but it also loses this kind of like y sound, y sound. So what we'll have is l, o, t, лёд, лёд, лёд. So then we put it together and actually have these syllables as part of a bigger word. We have to look where the stress falls. And the stress falls on yo. And by the way, when you have words that have yo will always be stressed. So other vowels will not be. That's the case here. I is not affected by being stressed or not stressed. It's pronounced pretty much exactly the same. But o, when it's not stressed, will be pronounced as a. So by itself, we pronounced it as mo, but within this word, o switches to a, so we'll pronounce it as самолет, самолет, самолет. Okay, here is our second word, and here we have ma, ma, sh-i, she, she, she. Now this sound is e in its default form, but sh is the consonant that is always hard, and it has the effect on vowels. It doesn't affect the vowels that make a preceding consonant hard, but it does affect vowels that make the preceding consonants soft, which is E. So here, when we have that type of a vowel follow a consonant that's always hard, it will kind of harden. So we really pronounce this as she, ma, she, na. So when we put it together, this is the stressed syllable, so it will be машина, машина, машина. Okay, here's our next word, ba, ba, b-o-ch, boch, ka, ka. Now if we put it together, the first syllable is stressed, which means that this O is again unstressed. So we'll read it as бабочка, бабочка, бабочка. Okay, here's our next word. Here we have b-ye, be, be. So the letter ye is pronounced basically like ye in its default form. Now, again, it makes the preceding consonant soft, so b changes to like d, d, d. And again, when we have a consonant preceding ye, this ye disappears. So what we'll have is basically d, e, de, de. Similar thing is happening here. G, ye changes to g, e, ge, ge, ge. And here we have m-o-t, mot, mot. So when we put it together, we have to think about where the stress falls. And the stress falls on O, which means these two vowels are unstressed and they are affected. So when ye is not stressed, it basically switches to the sound E. So we will have begemot, 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 begemot. Okay, here is our next word, and the first syllables are v, e, v, e. And E makes the preceding consonant soft, so it will be something like v, e, v, v. N, o, no, no. G, r, a, d. Together, it will be read as grat, grat, where d, a voiced consonant, turns into its voiceless counterpart t because it's the last letter. So if we had something like a at the end, we'll read it as grada. But when d is at the very end, it turns into t. Grat, grat. Now, if we put it together, again, we have to decide if any of these will be affected by the stress. And what's stressed here is a, means that E and O is not stressed, E is not affected, and O will turn into A. So you will read this word as vinagrat, vinagrat, vinagrat. Okay, here is A, K, U, Ku, L, A, La. And none of it is affected by the stress that falls on U. So the stress falls on U, but A is not affected by the stress rules, so we read it exactly like we practiced with the syllables. Akula, akula, akula. So here we have k, r, o, kro, k, o, ko, d, I, l. E makes d sound softer, kind of like d, deal, deal, deal. And when we put it together, E is stressed, and that means that both of these O's will be affected. They're not stressed, and they will turn into A. Crocodile, crocodile, crocodile. Okay, our next word, R-A, ra, k-ye. Again, ye by itself is pronounced like that. It makes the preceding consonant soft. So k turns into something more like k, k, k. I don't know if you can hear it on the recording. And then y falls out. So it's kind of like ke, ke, ke. Ta, ta, ta. We put it together. Ye is stressed, so we're not reducing it to E. So that's how we read it. Ракета, ракета, ракета. О, б, л, а, бла, к, о, ко. So here, when we put it together, the stress falls on O, so this O will be pronounced as O. But these both vowels are unstressed. I is not affected, but this O is affected, and it will turn kind of like in the short form of A. So we'll read it as облако, облако, облако. Okay, here we have L, O, lo, sh, a, sha, d, k, a. Now here we have the sound D, but because the next letter that follows it is a voiceless consonant, so what happens is exactly the same as if D was at the very end of the sentence, and it will turn into its voiceless counterpart, T. So the K, A will read as tka, tka. And when we put the word together, A is stressed, which means this O turns into A. So we will read it as лошадка, лошадка, лошадка. And here is our final word, p-o, po, p-u, pu, g-a-y, gay, gay. And if we put it together, A is stressed, which means this O turns into A. Попугай, попугай, попугай. Okay, that's the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching and keep learning Russian, and I will see you in my new videos. Пока-пока.